Welcome to Around the Girdle Earth, the podcast where Dartmouth stories come to life. I'm your host, Yovany Jerez, class of '03, and on each episode, we sit down with members of the Dartmouth alumni community to explore the moments, the mentors, and the memories that shaped them from the green to the great unknown. So, whether you graduated last year or a few years ago, these conversations offer a window into the journeys we have taken and the common threads that connect us all. So, grab your favorite drink, step into the story, fuel the nostalgia, and let's wonder together. Today, my very special guest from the class of 1999, Cesar Ruiz. Cesar,
That's
welcome to the podcast. Where are you calling us from?
How you doing, Giovanni? I'm actually from right now calling you from the great state of New Hampshire. So I'm still in New Hampshire. The way things worked out.
So you're
Um,
near. You're near. You can
I'm
smell
near. I'm
Dartmouth from
near.
there.
Yeah, yeah. You see the trees behind me. uh, I'm about an hour and a half south of Dartmouth right now. I'm in Nashua, uh, right across the border from Massachusetts, and about an hour from Boston. And yeah, that's where I ended up with my family. We ended up here in New Hampshire. Didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah. That's it. But what do you give us a little bit of your cultural background and your genesis story, your hero story?
Sure. So I was born in New York City to um, my parents from Ecuador, and they, uh, my mom got there like around high school, and then she went back and married my dad, and then brought him over, and all that good stuff. And yeah, I grew up in 5 blocks from Shea Stadium. Now it's called City Field. They tore it down and all that, but so right there by the Southern Line with the train going by, all the noise and everything. And it was a great place to grow up. I love taking the public transportation all over. This whole city is your oyster when you're a kid in New York City. And over there, you don't take like a ghetto school bus to high school. They give you a train pass or a bus pass. You take the public transportation to high school and stuff like that. So that's what I did. I went to high school at Fresh Meadow in Fresh Meadows, New York. I went to Francis Lewis High School. They had a special uh, program for like a law program, the Javits program, and yeah, so that was pretty good too. That was pretty good too. That was a great place to be there to grow in academics and with lots of friends and all that. So it was a wonderful experience, and I lived in the same city block my whole life, and I think it's very similar to a lot of experiences that we have where we were on one side of the block, and on the other side was my grandparents, and then on the other side was my great aunt. She was the first one who came to America. Her name was America because her father loved this country so much, and she was
Wow.
born the 4th of July, so he called her America, and that's why she's like, I gotta move there. So when she was young, she got her visa and everything, and she came here with nothing, and then thanks to her, we brought everyone came over. Um, so yeah, growing up was a lot of fun, with my cousins, and they were 2 blocks down from where we lived. Everybody was close by, into everyone's business, but in a good way. Um, it was just one of those things where my mom would be making food and like, oh hey, bring some empanadas to your abuelita, and off go around the corner, and you know bring her the empanadas, and of course I get there and she's feeding me food, right? So there was a lot of eating going on by growing up
Did you
in
go?
Massachusetts, New York.
Did you go to public high school, or did you go to a private high school?
Yeah, I went to public high school. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and then
I
were
went to public
you?
school my whole life. My parents couldn't afford. They would have wanted me to go to like the local Catholic school, St. Leo's and so forth. They would have wanted that, but we couldn't afford it. And back then, I think today they have more aid and things like that, but they wouldn't have been able to.
So
So
how did you stumble upon Dartmouth? How did the inspiration of Dartmouth even came into your radar? Let alone going to higher to college.
yeah, so to be honest, I had no idea about Dartmouth. Like, it was not on my radar. I think today it's a little easier for kids because they got social media and everything, like all these things just coming. I had no idea what, I had heard about the Ivy League, but, back then, at least around where we were, it's like, well, Harvard, you hear Harvard, Yale, like that's kind of like, even Princeton, like, no, I don't think anybody really knew. But my social studies teacher, he was really, I look back, he was my mentor, Mr. Goodnick. He's a wonderful, great man. And he took me under his wing. 10th grade, I come in. We actually lived in Florida from halfway through 8th grade to halfway through 10th grade. We moved to Florida, and then we moved right back to the same city block because my great aunt America, she wasn't doing well health-wise, cancer, all that. So we moved back. So a little bit aside there. But I come back, I go into Francis Lewis High School, and I don't know, this man, he just took me under his wing, and he's like, you need to do this. Hey, what about doing this? Do this Westinghouse project. Come on the debate team with me. All these things. And at the time, like, I didn't really know what he was doing. I look back and I'm like, okay, yeah, he was like setting up my profile. You know what I mean? He was taking care of me. And then he had actually gone to grad school at Dartmouth and to Tuck. He got his MBA from Tuck. And then when it was around time to apply to places, he's like, you have to apply to Dartmouth. I'm like, where? It's like, no, you're gonna love it. You're gonna see. And so I did. I applied to Dartmouth. I never visited, nothing. I trusted the man, completely. And so I applied there. And then when I got in, right, I went to visit. They had a visiting weekend for kids I think it was actually for all Hispanic kids or all
Yeah, it's
URMs.
all a
What was it called?
immersion weekend or something like that. It's like a
Dimensions or something like
minority
that. I
kid.
don't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, something like that, right? You remember? Okay, so yeah, so I go up there and that bus, it took the long way up. It got off like one exit later. I always forget the exit number, but so it goes up Main Street, right? So you're going up the hill and I see Main Street, and it was like being in Disney World. It was like being at the Magic Kingdom because this little quaint, town with the buildings, and then like over the horizon, Baker Tower starts like creeping up, like that. I was like, oh my goodness, this is out of a movie, right? And yeah, and that was just the best weekend. The people that I met, everyone there was just amazing. So after that, I'm like, yep, this is where I'm going. This is it.
So that's
And I had
still the
business from
deal,
other
huh?
schools. Yeah, it sold me on it. Right. It wasn't even like about it being the Ivy League or anything like that. It was just like it just felt right off the bat. And the
What
first time let's pulled in.
let's summarize in the best way possible your 4 years at Dartmouth in terms of what did you major in? What were your groups of friends? Did you hang up with more Latinos or did international students? Like, I don't know, give us a sense of those 4 years.
Yeah. So I ended up majoring in computer science. I went in thinking I was going to be a doctor, and chemistry 5 took care of that. But uh,
Man,
I,
it must have been the same class because I was gonna be an engineer and then like chemistry 5 took care of that.
took care of yeah, I had a great high school program, but it didn't really like prepare. Like, I didn't know how to study at Dartmouth. I didn't know how to study, but I came across this computer science class, and I was like, well, that just clicked, and I love doing that, and I had a minor in film, did a lot of animation, did animated shorts while at Dartmouth. And that was a lot of fun. That was really good. Did a lot of jogging. I wasn't into I didn't play any sports competitively, but um, I was just jogging around the whole campus and everything with my friends, and then I spent a lot of time in Aquinas House, the Catholic Student Center there. That was a great place to be, and that's really where a lot of my friends, came from there, from the dorms. Uh, so I didn't. I had some Latino friends as well, people who I met on the trip. One of my good friends, Norma Andrade, she was a good friend too. We kind of kept in touch all the way through, the, the time there. But I really have a variety of friends um, a lot with computer science. You spend a lot of time together in the pseudocop in the labs, and so that's where I ended up with a lot of friends. And then I was fairly active in the Catholic Student Center, so made friends there as well. And yeah, that it was good. I really treasure a lot of the friends that came from there. I'm still very, very good friends with a number of people. We kind of all ended up in the area. Um, my one of my great friends, Michael Tierney. Here's a funny story for you. So Michael Tierney was a really go-getter guy, and he still is. And so he's like, "Hey, there's no Irish club in this house in Dartmouth, right? There's no Irish club. I need to start an Irish club. Cesar, you be the treasurer." Uh, I actually ended up being the vice president. I think for like I helped found the Irish Society Club because I'm 1/16th Irish. My mom's last name, her middle name is her maiden name is Moran. You know, a lot of Irish went to Ecuador during the famine. You know,
It
very popular.
qualifies you, Cesar. It qualifies you.
Yeah. So I'm like, I got 1/16th Irish. You know.
It reminds me of my roommate, my freshman roommate, this Dominican guy. He was in the engineering track, and he founded CHEP, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, the student chapter at
Yeah.
college. And he was like, Yovany, you need to be part of the board. And I was like, Luis, just sign me up, whatever, you know. So I always claim to be a founding member of CHEP, even though myself I'm not an engineer. But I was like, you know what? I got two parents who are engineers, so I think that qualifies me.
Absolutely.
But you know, I didn't discover the Aquinas centers into my senior year,
Mm,
and part of it, I think, one, I wasn't really good practicing Catholic.
yeah.
My faith wasn't as strong during my college years. In fact, I think I spent 2 semesters calling myself an atheist, just because I don't know I don't even know how to explain it. I just figure like, oh, okay, let me try this, and I tried it, and I was like, no, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold too much ground. It requires too
Yeah.
much faith, and then I just like pivoted back, and then I just remember getting invited to the Aquinas Center and going there for I think it was either Easter or I was on campus trying to make money, and that's how I discover. I wish I would have uncovered. Was faith a big part of your Dartmouth experience?
Well, it's kind of interesting because we have a similar story there. I wasn't very practiced growing up. We were not very practicing. Like it was very cultural. It was a cultural Catholicism, if you will. Um, my dad would say, whenever my dad thought that we did something wrong, right, he'd tell me and my brother, like, "All right, you're gonna tell me, right?" And like, "We didn't do anything. I mean, legitimately, I know what you're talking about, right?" He's like, "All right, well, fine, but God knows what you did." So, that's sort of like what my faith life was like growing up. But then at Dartmouth, I got tricked. I got tricked into going to Aquinas House because I liked singing, and my friend's like, "Hey, why don't we, you come and we'll sing in the choir, just for like one time or whatever." And so I went, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh shoot, now they're gonna know when I'm not there," like because I wasn't thinking. I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm singing, that was fun," and it's like, "Oh no, now they're gonna know. Now they're gonna see when I'm not there." So I felt like I had to go back, right? And so that sort of became when a more regular attendance at mass was. But I can't say I wasn't very. I was still searching and like still trying to learn more. I was in the process of learning, and it wasn't until I met my wife, a Protestant who was borderline atheist. She was like agnostic, borderline atheist, and she just started asking me all these questions. Right? Well, if you believe this, then why do you do this, or what, like just like challenging me, and by the grace of God, really, because it could have gone either way. I know it could have gone either way. I just started looking for answers, and I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. This is great. This is, and so we ended up learning and growing in the faith together, and that's how I became more practicing and all that, and just learned more about it, and increasing my relationship with Jesus. But no, no, my first 3 years or so, yeah, were not. I mean, I was going to mass on a semi-regular basis. I wouldn't even say every week, but it wasn't. I was still in the process of
Wow, that's
working through that.
I empathize with your story as well, just because I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 12 years,
Yeah,
and those first 3 years were very formative because in Atlanta there's a street out there called Peach Street, and Peach Street is everywhere. And on left and to the right side of Peach Street, there are like at least you know 30 different denominations of Christian churches. I mean, like
yeah,
it really is. I'm like, oh wait, I didn't know that was. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't. Know. And I just kind of went church hopping for a while, and I would just learn about all these different faiths, and then eventually I reverted back to what was familiar, and very much to you, I was being challenged left and right. Well, why do you
yeah,
do this and what do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me find
yeah.
the
I
answer
don't
for
know.
you. Let me
Yeah.
find the answer. I will go to CatholicAnswers.com and
Yes, CatholicAnswers.com. That was a
yeah.
big thing back then. Yeah,
And as I was reading them, I was like, oh, this is what we really believe. This is beautiful, right? Like,
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
I little by little I begin to rediscover and fall in love with my faith, which to me now as an adult, as a married adult, with family, with 3 kids, well, 2 kids now. My
Yeah,
my
yeah,
middle son died about a week ago.
yeah. I'm
I
so
never
sorry.
been more grateful for my faith than in this moments, right? Because the now being formed, it really elevates everything else that I do, even professionally.
Amen. Amen. Yeah.
So you graduated from Dartmouth, and then you decided to where does the engineering track start from?
Uh, the computer science thing. Yeah, so that was an interesting little thing because, well, this woman I was telling you about, my wife, right, who became my wife. So like, okay, we're gonna get married. We're gonna get married. We're getting married right after we graduate. Like that was, after graduation, what's the first thing we're gonna do? We're gonna get married. And she was gonna. So of course she wants to go to grad school, and she can't decide where she wants to go. Right? She's got Stanford on one coast, and she's got MIT on the other. And I'm like, you can't decide. No, I can't decide. She wishes to the last possible minute. So I missed all the fall recruiting and everything. No one. I had no one to guide me because I think if someone would have guided me, they would have said, "Oh, find a job in both places, and then I didn't. I just like that's what I would tell. That's what one of the advice that I would give someone today or myself, right? But back then, I was just like stuck on this idea, like, no, I gotta find a job, and I can't do that until I know where we're going. Anyway, so I find this job in Massachusetts when she finally decides that she's going to go to MIT. That's how we end up staying in the area, by the way. Um, so I find this job in Massachusetts in doing public. It was a public safety software. It was software for police cars. So back then, I was like brand new, right? Being able to get on the internet really and look up, license plates and anything like that. Do all communication, all encrypted, as opposed to being on the radio where everybody can hear you with the scanner, right? So that was like this, new thing. So that was very rewarding to start my career like that, working on stuff that's helping people, you know, be safe, right? Helping the public safety. And and then come full circle. Now I'm doing software engineering and release engineering, but MIT Lincoln Laboratories in the space sensor division. And the software I'm working on is, well, right now, for example, I'm taking terabytes of information coming off our sensors that are looking at the skies, looking at space, and you know, working with that, let's put it that way, to translate it and all this other stuff so we can see what the heck is going on and keep track of things. And again, just also very rewarding that, we're doing something to help keep the nation safe. Right. So that's really, really, really cool.
I clarify something for me. So your wife is also a Dartmouth alumni?
Yes, she is. She's a 99.
Okay,
Yeah,
she's a 99. Okay, so you guys,
yeah.
okay, got it. And then did she also do computer science as well, or
No, she was a biology and math major, and then she got her master's at MIT for microbiology.
gotcha? Did you live in any other city beyond Boston or New Hampshire?
No, we lived in Cambridge for, while she was doing that, and then we spent a year in Waltham, like her final year there, as she got her master's. And then it was right around the the bubble, right? The dot-com bubble. And I lost my job. We had a baby on the way, our first one, and I was like, oh shoot, what are we gonna do? And I found this job in Manchester, New Hampshire. It was an hour commute north, right? I'm like, well, that's where I'm gonna go. And I get up there and I'm like, this is nice, right? I had never been in Manchester before, even though we spent all that time in Hanover. I never went past Hanover while I was there, right? I mean, maybe West Lab and things like that, but like, I didn't even go on an LSA. Like, again, I didn't know how to go about it, and I didn't want to ask anyone. Like, I just assumed I wouldn't be able to afford it either. It was just one of those things. So I was always there. So here I'm in Manchester. Like, this is a nice little town. Everyone calls it a city. I don't know why it's a town, but okay. And, and I'm like, and then my coworker's like, you should move up here. You could afford a house up here. And I'm looking at the prices. I'm showing my wife. I'm like, yeah, we could afford a house up here on a single income even. Well, it'll just be temporary. It'll just be for a little while. Then we'll go down. Then we'll move down to either Florida, where my parents had now again moved back to. They've been there since, or we'll move to New York, where I still had at the time family there, and she still had family in New Jersey. That was sort of the idea. And then life happens. Kids keep growing up. It was one kid, two kids, three. 8 kids later, we're here still. So
You have 8 kids?
I have 8 kids. Yes.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. What a
Yeah.
blessing. I only know one more person that beats you, and that's my sister. She has 11 kids.
Oh, darn it.
I don't
That's
have those
great. That's wonderful for your
aspirations.
sister. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't have those aspirations, but we certainly want more kids. We would love to have more kids if we're blessed with them.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it
that
wasn't a
would be
plan. It wasn't planned. I mean, it just sort of happened. We just took it like one kid at a time, and they just, it's like, okay, well, let's have another one. And, okay, can we handle one? Yeah, we can handle another one. We kept going. So every 2 years, there was another baby in the house. It was great. Everyone always says like, oh, that must have been so rough. I said, you know what? I think that if we had octuplets, I could see that, but it was like every 2 years. Like, so we just always had someone in diapers, and all the new stuff was at the older end. And now we're at the stage where our youngest is 7, and it's like everything's just going away now. Like, it's like, and it's going fast too. To me, it feels like everyone's leaving the house in a few days. You know,
wow.
even though I still have 5 in the house, it just feels like that.
Yeah, wow. I bet I'd be curious to see how your definition of éxito, success,
Mm,
has changed with time.
yeah. You want me to answer that now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Uh, so yeah, that is really interesting because um, I still remember my Dartmouth interview. My Dartmouth interview, I took the train into Manhattan, got out, and there's this beautiful big office building, and it's dark outside, all the lights out. And the two guys, two Dartmouth alums, they're really young. They must have been in their 20s. I think they had just gotten a job there. Right. They're all nice suit, tie, looking really sharp. They meet me like, oh yeah, come on in. This is great. We get into this elevator. The elevator looks fancy. I had never been in such a fancy elevator, right? We go upstairs, and go into a boardroom, and everything just looks beautiful. And I'm just thinking, this is it. This is success. This is what it looks like. You go to Dartmouth, You end up being in a high-rise building wearing a suit. Um, that's what I want. That's what you see in the movies, right? And that was my definition of success. Like that's what I wanted. And then I get to Dartmouth, and things just started changing because I really, really, I just developed this desire for a family. Like, I mean, that was always part of it too. But once I met my wife, and and as I mentioned, we were discovering the faith together and learning about it, and both of us were just falling in love with it. There was just this real sense of my definition of success was I want to have a great marriage with this woman. I don't care where I am. I don't care what job I have, right? And that's why I was looking for a job. Like, okay, I gotta figure out where she's gonna go to grad school, and that's where we'll go from there. Uh, I just want to be with her, and then as we started having children, that definition, like expanded to, I just want to be a good father. I want my kids. I want to raise kids that, yeah, they're not going to be perfect because heck, I'm not perfect, but I want kids who are going to go to heaven. I want kids who love God so that we can be together for eternity. Like that's what my measure of success now. Like, yeah, I still get sidetracked and I want certain things, but my ultimate goal, what keep trying to center myself on, is like this is our goal. This is what I want for my family. This is what we need to aspire to. Everything else, it'll it'll work out. It'll work out. We work hard, do our best, right? Put food on the table, but nourish
Yeah.
the soul as well.
My sister always tells me that where one eat, 10 others can eat from there.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, my mom used to do. I don't know how God must have multiplied the food in that pot because like you talked about how we were all on the same block. People were always coming in. It was like an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, right? There's no doorbell ringing. You just go right in, go right out. Grandma comes by, grandpa, aunts, uncles. It all seemed maybe they were calling. I don't think they were calling ahead of time. It just seemed random to me growing up. And someone comes in, food comes out. And there was always enough food. I don't know how. You know.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
As we get towards the end of our dialogue, Cesar, I'm curious, since you're a software engineer, um, how has that field changed? Because obviously, first of all, there's not a lot of Latinos in STEM, period.
Yeah.
So I'm curious that you picked that track. Let alone, like, I'd be curious on your reflections on how it's evolved, especially now in the light of AI,
Mhm.
wrapping itself, really entrenching itself with AI. What are your thoughts on that?
Um. So my son, my oldest son, he wanted to do computer science also, and he lucked out. I think he lucked out because he went to Penn and did the graphics engineering, the computer graphics engineering thing, which is very niche, right? It's very specialized. And I think that for anyone, Latinos, anyone going to computer science nowadays, you want to really specialize into something. You want to get something that no one else can do. It's harder, requires more math. But I I do see the AI making things easier for your generic software developer. Uh, and so, that I think that it's only a matter of time before that goes away. Like that's going to be more difficult to get a job in. Having said that, I think it's still a very robust field. I mean, there's still a lot of jobs out there for people who know what they're doing. But uh, this was true back when I was in school, also. But I think it's even more important now because I see it with my kids. My daughter is a mechanical engineer and at Princeton, and I see it with them too, like how it's very important to have the internships while at school. Very, very important. You have to put in the legwork. You gotta put in the time. You gotta put in the time while at school doing things at school apart from the coursework. right? So that you have the credentials to then apply to the internships, and like, oh, okay, yeah, oh, you were on the racing team and you were working on the software for the, for the racing car and stuff like that, or you were doing this other thing, whatever. So you get the internship, and now you have that resume. So then when you go look for a job, then it's easier for that. The other thing I'll say is, and this I think is good news for other people who are applying to Dartmouth or aspiring, or even at Dartmouth right now, is that the Dartmouth name does make a difference. It really does. And I've had not I work with everybody. I work with people who've gone to all sorts of schools, but being in the software industry is something that what you realize is that there's a lot of layoffs, a lot, because there's always companies buying other companies. And if and so when you're looking for a job and you have Dartmouth on the resume, it makes it easier. It just does, because I more often than not I go to an interview and I've gotten an offer in the past. It's been a while now since I've looked for a job, but sometimes my wife had got a master's from MIT, and I've had 2 interviews so far on my 25 years where they say, hey, so how do you get into this, into this particular thing? Because I was doing release engineering, which is a very niche particular thing of software engineering. I'm like, how do you get into that? Yeah. And so I told the story about my wife and MIT and how I had to wait, and that's how I kind of got pigeonholed into this thing. And I mentioned that my wife went to MIT. They write down MIT on my transcript, on my resume, circle it and put stars and happy faces on it. Like, I didn't go to MIT. My wife went to MIT. It's the craziest thing. I get bonus points just by association.
Hey man, the petty, we call it the halo effect.
Yeah,
Something that I studied in sociology is that you benefit from the halo that comes in association with the people closest to you. So yeah, I agree
sometimes
with
people say like, oh, like, oh, should I go to this school or that school? Like, no, go to that school. Go to that school if you can afford everything. And that, actually now, I think one of the great things about Dartmouth is so much better than when we were at school, is that they just do so well, making it affordable for everyone. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
pretty amazing.
Oh
It's
yeah. Well, I mean, they've expanded their need blind policy to include international students, which is
yeah,
amazing. And yeah, a lot of people don't even know that hey, you just got to get in, and once you're in, if you need the entire tuition paid for, they'll take care of it, right? And
yeah,
because that was a conversation that made my parents and I nervous. It's like, why are you applying to a school that we can't afford? And I had to explain to them like, no, if I get in, I'll be
yeah,
it'll be taken care of. You don't have to worry
yeah,
about it. I won't be a burden to you guys.
yeah.
Um, so
That's so funny how we have some, like, it's the same thing. Like, I had to explain all these things to my parents back then. Like we didn't know much, but they knew even less. Yeah,
no, and
yeah,
and your comments about internship, I didn't do an internship. I didn't know. Like
yeah, yeah,
during the summer, I would just go back home and work locally. It's like, and then I get back to campus. I'm like, oh, what did you do? Oh, I was in Goldman Sachs, or I was in Chase, and I was like, wait,
Yovany,
what?
I got lucky. I got lucky. Like it's a little hazy to me how it worked out, but I know a friend, like, somehow I got hooked into an internship for my summer after junior year, and at at one of the banks, and Morgan Stanley. So I was doing computer software engineering stuff at Morgan Stanley, and like that was just all Dartmouth network. That was, like, someone who was on internship there during a thanks to the D plan during the spring term. Like, they wanted someone to refer, and it was a friend of a friend. Like, oh yeah, how you doing? Okay, yeah, okay, I'll give you a name. You're gonna good. And it was like it was a nice interview, really short, man. And I ended up there, and then I had like something legit that really helped me out, because like I said, I skipped all that whole recruiting stuff, right? But then when I was looking for a job, just in regular cycle, I had Morgan Stanley, I had Dartmouth, Um, but I didn't know about that. I didn't know about
Yeah,
internships. Yeah.
I think this is what this type of conversations are so crucial, is that one, they create awareness. And now the next step is it's the mentorship, right? It's to get individuals like you and I to mentor existing undergrads or recent grads to be like, hey, look, this is how you could optimize your 4 years at Dartmouth, and this is what you could be doing in the first 5 years out of Dartmouth to really like speed yourself up. Because I always felt 10 years behind my peers, right? My parents were immigrants, they were business surviving. So,
Yeah.
so for me, I had, the thing is, like, we're smart enough where we figure it out on our own, right?
Right.
But
Right.
imagine how we had those mentors or that guidance that create awareness and sponsorship, right? We would have really, catapulted much, much earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. So I take Mr. Goodnick as like my inspiration now. And one of the things that I do is I coach. I coach kids every year on applying to selective schools. Like Dartmouth, like Penn, Columbia, stuff like that. And these are kids that they don't very similar situations to us, right? The parents don't know anything about it, but they're ambitious. They want to do good, and kind of paying it forward that way.
That's beautiful. So, Cesar, last thought, any quotes that have served you and guide you well throughout life that you could share with us?
Um, yeah, I have a really good friend. He passed away. 80-year-old guy. Uh, he was Mr. John Meehan. He's a great guy, founder of Magdalen College, which is now gone, here in New Hampshire as well. And he always had this quote that really meant a lot to me because I there's so much packed in. He said, "God always forgives. Man sometimes forgives. Nature never forgives." And I just think that like there's so much wisdom in those three little items and a reminder of how merciful God is because He's been very, very, very merciful to me. And he forgives everything. It's just um, so can't say any more about that.
Yeah, no, I love that quote. It reminds me of something that I also live by, which is, you know, um, God never tires of forgiving you.
Yeah.
We are the ones who get tired of asking for forgiveness, and
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's a powerful reminder. That's not only applicable in the spiritual life, but very applicable in the marriage life.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Always opportunities to forgive.
Yeah. Cesar,
Yeah.
good chatting with you. Thank you all of you for joining us online for this episode of Around the Girdle Earth. If today's conversation sparked a memory or gave you something to think about, please leave us a thoughtful reflection in the comment section. Share this episode with a classmate or a fellow alum. It's a very easy way to keep the Dartmouth spirit alive in this chaotic digital age. And until next time, stay curious, stay green, and keep roaming this beautiful girdle earth we call home. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Cesar.
Thank you, Giovanni.